Our guest of honor has arrived, so let's everybody find a seat, please, and we'll get started. And let me just a couple of words here. You know, this has kind of been a long journey here at this church, and an even longer one for Sammy, of course. And it's nice to see everybody here. I can't believe it's actually coming to an end. I thought it never would for a long time. This isn't the exact end I wanted, but this is what happened, and it's better than what could be. And so I want to thank you all for coming. And I'm just going to, I need to introduce. There's someone very important in the back row. His name is Ron. And I always call him Ron the Juror. He saved the day. Would you like to stand? Okay, and in here we're going to have the main part of our program, which will be Sammy has some things to. We have two of our former pastors here, and I'm looking for them now. Reverend Marcia Free is right here. Stand up there. And the Reverend Warren Clark is right over here. And I think they both have a few words to say. What do I need to say? And I've been kind of reminiscing the last 10 years here, and I found some of the, got some pictures that are in the fellowship hall of just trial, Washington, D.C., various things have happened. Jim Glover also provided a lot of music for us, so we're going to do some singing over there at the jail while you were in the church. You were in it. We had a rally when you were acquitted and not released, and one of the songs we sang was "We Shall Overcome." So now this is going to help us. So we'll do that afterwards. That's all for now. I turn it over to Dr. Sami Al-Arian.
Thank you so much, Mel, for this kind introduction. And thank you, everybody, for being here. I can't tell you how much I'm overwhelmed with the love I've received throughout the years, especially from this community. It's just been overwhelming. I want to thank also Reverend Denise, the pastor of the church, also for hosting us today and for the support we got from this community. And to see so many friends after so many years also is really a joy for me personally and for my family. It's difficult to address you when I've been in this country for 40 years. I came in 75 at the age of 17, and I just turned 57 3 days ago. So, thank you. So to spend 40 years in a country that basically is a country that you've ever known as an adult and leave is not an easy thing to do. But I know everything is for a purpose, and God has His purpose, and there must be something good that can come out of this. So what I'd like to do today is just to share with you some thoughts, departing thoughts, after living so many years here. I came in 75 as a son of Palestinian refugees born in Kuwait, but after 8 years, basically the government asked my father to leave because he wouldn't turn as an informant for them against other Palestinians. So we went to Egypt. And Egypt at the time was basically in exclusive revolutionary mode, so they were accepting Palestinians. I lived there for another 9 years, but very quickly turned against, once after the 73 war, basically in turn and against Palestinians for whatever reason. So even though I had the grades, I couldn't get into a decent college. And my father at the time told me that I could, use all his savings and I could choose any college in the world. So I corresponded with England, trying to get into medicine or to the US for engineering. I got the engineering acceptance first, so that's why I came here. And I was very keen on finishing as much, as fast as I can, so I don't have my father to pay for my tuition. And thank God, after one semester, I got scholarship throughout. So at least that was a relief. After 3 years, I finished. Then went into grad school, finished a master's degree and PhD degree in '85. And I got married to a wonderful wife. In '85, I 3 times I thought about leaving the country. In '85, once I finished my PhD, I thought, okay, now it's a decision to make. I had 3 children. And I wanted to leave and see which country I would like my children to be raised in. But the decision was made very quickly that I couldn't find really a country where I can feel free, and for my children to feel free, and to be respected as human beings and citizens. Being stateless Palestinian is not a good thing to be in any country, especially in the Middle East. You're just not a person. And obviously, I didn't even have the right to live under occupation, because I didn't have the right to be in Palestine. My parents were kicked out from the 1948 areas. So that wasn't a choice. So the choice was made very quickly. I would stay here, at least until I become a citizen. I was hired QSF, and throughout my student years and beyond, I was always active. So that's me. Can't change me. And obviously, something happened throughout these years in terms of what got the authorities interested in me. But also, after we made the initial interview and I was accepted as a citizen, that was the second time I thought about, okay, how about if we leave the country and maybe find another environment. But now I would have a citizen, I thought, become a citizen, and we can probably find another country to raise our children. But that wasn't to happen, because I got good offers. It was just not a country that you would also be free to talk, to speak, to write, to debate, to congregate. So very quickly that was shut down. And throughout my years, I was interested in building institutions. And that's what I was doing. And during my trial, those who attended it, they would see how many organizations I was part of. How we got to where we were, obviously, that has to do with a lot of things. Definitely 9/11 was one of them. But also the activism on the Palestinian front, something that is very difficult to do in the country for many reasons. And I'm not going to dwell on them today. But if you go back and try to see what lessons one can draw, or what lessons one can learn, and what you can take out of this very difficult experience. Our case really was the impossible case. It was extremely impossible to defend. And if you don't know the details, you may have heard or read here and there, you would find a little bit of difficulty there, but to be in the midst of it and the target of it, it is just impossible really to defend. How can you defend against the mightiest, the most powerful government on earth when you are the target of this government? When they assemble everything in their power with unlimited resources at their disposal. They want to destroy somebody, or they want to take someone's freedom or liberty away. When they put every single obstacle in your path. I mean, not only they make it so difficult to defend, but even the conditions that they put you under makes it almost impossible to defend. I mean, I was the only pre-trial detainee or prisoner in the federal prison of 5,000. Everybody else was convicted except me. They put you in a cell, solitary confinement, and they said, here's 21,000 hours of recording that we have against you. There's 600 videotapes of lectures, a couple of thousand audio tapes, 400,000 documents, and by the way, you have no access to them. How can you defend about something like that? They take you every few weeks, they take you for a few days at Orient so that you can look at something and you're supposed to defend yourself. It was impossible, really impossible. But on top of that, they put you in solitary confinement with all different conditions. That's like Guantanamo type conditions. No access to family, no access to really communication, or even to your lawyers. You know, all the harassment, abuse of guards, you name it. Even the music that they used to use against Guantanamo prisoners, they used to use it against us by having the fire alarm on 14, 15, 20 times a day, every time for 10 or 15 minutes. It never happened before I got there, it never happened after I left there. But it was happening every day I was there. And it was really atrocious. Anyway, so what comes out of this is that there are certain things that you see in life, and you know that this is what really sustains you. This is what really makes you the person who can at least stand up to such abuse. And the first thing is faith. Faith, I can tell you, it's very difficult to explain it to some people because they may not have experienced it, but faith is what really sustains you. And I have so many stories that I can recite to you. Things that you can never plan. You know, I never planned that I'd be in that situation. The most I thought would happen when they said there's a grand jury, okay, they may charge you something that has to do with immigration or something. But to come with the conspiracy to murder and maim and kill and bomb and all these crazy stuff that I've never even dreamt that you could be accused of, it was extremely, it's not something that you would think about. And it was by plan, of course. We knew why it happened. But to have faith is basically not to have, it's not supernatural miracles that happens, but it is miracles that the possibility of taking place is very remote. For instance, I had a wonderful legal team. And I didn't know anyone. I mean, I knew Bill a little bit when we were in Washington, D.C., fighting secret evidence. He was the president of the National Criminal Defense Lawyer Association. But I never know him personally. So how I got Linda into this, it just happened that the lawyer that I had, recruited her boss, we got her in, and she was convinced to stay on the case even though her boss left the case. She recommended Bill, which I meant, and we immediately bonded. So this is how we get Bill. So to have a wonderful legal team was something that was never planned. It just happened to have it. And of course, you have to raise the funds. I mean, the defense cost and justice in America is not cheap. Almost $1.3 million. How can you get $2 million if you didn't have it? Well, we have all kinds of friends who were helping us. And that was also something that we cannot plan. That's why also when you get a case as mistrial, it's not easy just to retry that case because you have still to raise the same amount of money and to go through all that again. So anyway, so that was something that was not easy to do. And throughout the trial, I was even, I wouldn't say fighting, but arguing with my lawyers that they're not defending it the right way. I'm trying to get, I spent thousands of hours putting together how it should be fought, how it should be done in court. Bill told me, okay, what do you want to do? I said, I have this list of witnesses. You have not even interviewed one of them. I said, how many do you have? I said, 275. I said, okay, give me the best 10. And he never intended because he knew the government. He said, the government cannot prove its case. And I don't want to present any witnesses because the burden is on them to prove their case. I said, okay, what about, these are the, I went through all the bank accounts and every penny we got, I accounted for it, how we got it, where it was spent, where it is, everything. Not the insinuations the government was trying to get the jury. And he said, this is not how I'm going to argue the case. I said, Bill, you have to, they bring these 200 phone calls, and I have another 300 phone calls that I translated that we need to present so that it can explain both between this one phone call and one phone call. He said, none of them will be accepted, none of them will be admitted.
And I did not understand, why isn't this about truth? I said, it's not about truth. Get it from you. This is about telling the story to 12 jurors. Whom they going to believe? So we kept arguing, going back and forth, and I got tired of this. So one night, I was in a cell at Orient, and they put me in the women's section so I wouldn't be talking to any men. So I was in a cell, in solitary, inside the unit, inside the wing, and there was no one else. So I was really, really isolated. Usually at 3 o'clock they come and check my diabetes. So I was dreaming that night that I was sleeping. First they control the lights from the outside. So they turn on the lights, open the door, they come and check my diabetes. So again, within my dream, someone was coming. They opened the door with no lights on. So I opened my eyes and find someone with a huge rock was coming to really crush my skull. It was only about 3 steps away. So I had 2 choices in my mind, again while dreaming. Either I stand up and fight them, or I pray. I really didn't have time to stand up and fight. It's only 3 steps. So I decided to pray. But the prayer I remember during these times is so long, I wouldn't even have time to recite it. So I had to choose a verse, which means, oh God, oh God, oh God, save me from what's about to happen to me. So I kept saying it, and the person with that big rock is coming with steps. I hear the steps with heavy breathing coming. They stand up before me, about to crush my skull, and I'm praying, and suddenly that face, that breathing is gone. I open my eyes, and the door is open, and the person is gone. I wake up at that time and thinking, what is the message? What's the message? And the message to me was that stop fighting, just pray. And from that moment, this was February 2005, 4 months before the trial actually began. And I stopped arguing with my lawyers, do whatever you want to do. Okay, I'm done with you. So they fought, and everybody knows that after almost 80 witnesses by the government, we did not present a single witness. They wanted to do it their way. And another message, actually I had 4 different visions. The second one happened 2 days before actually the case went to the jury. This was on a Sunday, and I think I said that to my friend Reverend Clark, this particular dream. It was 2 days before it went to the jury. It went to the jury on Tuesday, I believe, sometime in November. And in that dream, I saw myself in the courtroom, only with my undershirt and underpants, covering with my prayer rug, and sitting between my 2 lawyers. And the judge just saying, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty, but only for my co-defendants. And I'm asking my lawyers, why is he not saying anything about me? He said, wait, it's gonna come, it's gonna come. And what's interesting at the time is that my lawyer wanted the foreman to be an older black woman. Remember, this is not 2 days before she was even made a foreman. So didn't know that she was the foreman. And I saw her in my dream giving these verdicts to the judge. And I'm telling my lawyer, and she's not taking it seriously at the time. So anyway, saying not guilty, not guilty, not guilty. And then during the trial, I was trying to read the faces of the jury. One person who would not look at me straight was Ron, sitting in the back. I thought whenever I look at him, it would look the other way. So I couldn't read him. But lo and behold, in that dream, he came to me and whispered in my ear, saying, you're innocent too. And I told my wife, and I told Reverend Clark, the juror was at the very far end. I saw him last night, and he came and told me in my ears, you're innocent. And then, I'm declared innocent, but everybody leaves the courtroom, and I'm trapped. Couldn't leave. And I didn't obviously know that it would take 9 years to get out of there. But that's another thing that also happened. This is like a sign. So when I talk about faith, I really talk about experiences that come to you, that sustains you. And a lot of people, how can you put up with that? That would turn people crazy. I said, yeah, I do. It does. And I wouldn't know that I would have any kind of power or any kind of strength that would sustain me, because it's so difficult to live these times. But faith is an important part of our life. That when you experience it, you know that it does make a huge difference. The other thing that is very important for me was from my family, the support of the family. When you are in prison, constantly the only thing you think about, every waking moment, is your family. That's why the government knows this, and they make every effort to try to destroy that relationship. And when I say that, I really mean it. They make it very difficult for family to communicate with prisoners. If they're a target, I'm not saying that this is with every single prisoner, because it's not. Actually, if you're a criminal prisoner, they make it easy for you to communicate with your family. But when you are a prisoner target because of your politics or thoughts or beliefs, they make every effort to make sure that they destroy that trust, destroy that relationship. So it becomes very difficult. So constantly all what you're thinking about is your family. And I just say I'm so much blessed with a wonderful family, with my wife and children, who stood with me every single way, and they had to endure so many difficulties and so many hardships. Abandonment by many people, many friends, but thankfully many others actually came through. This is the time where you can actually know your true friends, those who stand with you and those who don't. And that also, I will talk a little bit about the importance of community, but when it comes to family, this has been a source of strength for all of us. I could not have survived without them. The visits. I don't think there was a single time where there was a visit that Nala did not visit me. Not a single day where it was possible for her to visit. And sometimes she would come all the way 75 miles to Tampa. And for whatever reason, the guards would find a way for her not to visit. She had to go back without seeing me. Because at the beginning, they were claiming basically search, very invasive search for me, even though I don't see anybody, don't touch anybody, because we can get behind the glass. So these were difficult times as well. The third source of strength and importance in surviving is community. And I have followed the hundreds of cases around the country, these cases, thought crimes or entrapments or political beliefs or what have you that have been taking place after 9/11. And I had people telling me this, that one thing that was different in the Tampa case than others is that a lot of people saw non-Muslims involved in the case, that in most other cases around the country they don't have that. And the reason we have that is because of the bridges we built even before that case went. I mean, people knew us. It's not like we were unknown quantities, where other places people don't know who these people are. We don't know what they do in their mosque. Why may I get involved? Okay, we disagree with certain government aspects or the encampment or other things. But, I'm not gonna get involved at this point. But in our case, people actually knew us. People dealt with us, ate with us, laughed with us, cried with us. We went to trips together. We worked with different issues together. So they were standing up in front of the court every single day. And people were seeing them and hearing them. And that was a huge difference. Even though at one point, the whole Muslim community here was so intimidated that every single person almost was visited by the FBI and tried to get them to try to intimidate them or make them fearful of what might come to them. At least the other side, the non-Muslims were not fearful. They stood and they spoke, they demonstrated, they rallied. And that was also a source of strength for me personally. I received hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of letters from around the country. I don't believe I did. I think I answered every single one of them. I don't remember not answering a single one of them. And they kept coming and coming and coming and coming, to the point that a lot of prisoners were so jealous. Every day I'm getting all these stacks of letters. So anyway, the prayer vigils that were taking place, the love I got, when we go to Orient, where they would allow me our visits every day. Every single day I would have 3 visitors. Every single day. I'm so proud of the Tuesdays with Sammy and Reverend Carr. We laughed so much. We had lots and lots and lots of discussions. These were also a source of strength for me personally. I was looking forward to every Tuesday, and then we'll meet with the clock. And of course, I want to also mention that the work we did with Hope, his organization with Progress and Equality, I think that also, it was a byproduct of our involvement, with the different projects. So many pastors, so many religious leaders, and the wonderful work that Sharon and others. I really want to thank personally every single person who has stood with us, prayed with us, supported us. A lot of them are here, but a lot of others are not here. So really, I really thank you from the bottom of my heart for being there for me, for my family, for being with them, comforting them, visiting them, talking with them. You can't believe how much that love and support has stood with my children. My children, some of them were adults, some of them were still young, but they still remember that, very much so. The fact that you visited them, you stood with them at a time that was really, really, really very difficult. I was made the number one devil in this area around the country. It was crazy, but that was the fact, because it was designed to be that way. And for people to go against that, it's a simple thing to do, but it does affect the people. And the fourth thing I think that I should be grateful for, after faith, family, community, is that despite all the abuses that was taking place here, and still taking place in the country, we still live in a society that does allow, at least for a shot, for justice. It wasn't totally dark. We still had, it was a remote chance, but we still had a chance. Whether we're going to get the right jury, whether we're going to get the right trial, this is something that we have struggled for, but we had at least a shot. Where in other countries you don't even have a shot. Think of Egypt. When you have, in one court date for 2 hours or even less, they would sentence like 500-600 people to death. At least here you have a shot at this, and I'm grateful for that. Grateful that we had an independent jury. That we had a jury that was capable of seeing through the smoke and mirrors, as someone put it, of the government's case. Government. I remember in some instances where they had, what they thought were the evidence that they were putting. We had some light moments too. They brought, one of the evidence against me was a dream of my co-defendant. Seriously. They read the entire dream. It was my co-defendant, he's right there. Somehow he dreamt of me having an argument with him. That argument ended up read to the whole jury. It was between him and another co-defendant, and it was presented as evidence, and it wasn't even my dream. It was his dream, and somehow it was read there. And I'm sitting here, and I'm sitting there thinking of 1984. I don't know if you've read that novel by George Orwell. Where Big Brother, and it was there was a little girl, and of course she has to report everything to her school. And one day she was going to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and she heard her father, basically cursing Big Brother. And the next day she had to report him, and he was arrested and put in prison. She went to visit him, and he thanked her for catching him before he actually acted out on his dream. I felt that this is the type of trial I was having. It was really very strange. I remember in one instance the FBI agent who was surveying me in the 90s, I believe, and they bring all kinds of pictures. Me going to my office at USF or at Wise, or sometimes going to a restaurant and coming out of a restaurant with different people. And that was the extent of his testimony, just to give the jury a sense that somehow I was a dangerous man under surveillance. And my brilliant lawyer stood up and said, "Are you telling this distinguished jury that you quote my client in the pursuit of having lunch?" And truth to God, the answer was no, sir, it was dinner. You can laugh, but at the time it was so serious. You couldn't actually laugh at that. Or, they construct this RICO conspiracy. And RICO was something I think that came in the 70s to address some of the mafia people. They couldn't get the top people, so they tried to get the bottom. They were getting the bottom, couldn't get the top, so you got the RICO. So whatever the bottom people do, you're responsible for. So in this case, they have to put all kinds of criminal behavior. So in our case, it was all kinds of killing, maiming, this and that. One of them was like extortion. So one of the lawyers wrote a written memo saying, "Strike him home." So the judge asked the prosecutors, who were they trying to extort? And the prosecutor told the judge, they're trying to extort land from the state of Israel. The judge says, no, you can't extort an entity, it has to be a person. So he took it out. It was 1 out of 10, so it would not really have made any difference to the conspiracy, but they superseded a year and a half later and they put it back in. And the judge says, what's new? So we're going to bring somebody that extorted. So I was so curious. Who did I extort? So when it came time to give testimony, they brought this Israeli woman who unfortunately lost a sister in 1996 bombing. And 4 years later, in 2000, she felt threatened. So she sold the restaurant she had in Tel Aviv and moved with her children and husband to Costa Rica. And this is how we, sitting in Florida, extorted her. So this was the testimony. This was what the government presented. This is how we extorted that woman. I think there was another story with the internet. This is something I picked up also from an interview with Ron. We fought for a month. My co-defendant here, Sutherland, he accessed 2 websites that I never knew they existed. These 2 websites had 7 hyperlinks created after the conspiracy supposedly had ended, when we were in Coleman. So there were like 9 different websites that had all kinds of gore pictures and stuff. And the government acted that these were co-conspirators, so they have to be presented to the jury. And we fought for about a month, it couldn't happen. So they presented them as evidence against us. And what's interesting is that, one of the jurors said afterwards that this is what opened his eyes. Because we thought that being really created them, maybe they didn't even access them. Why would the government go that far to present something that it's probably not that important, but nevertheless they spend a week presenting this evidence. I mean, that's how far the government was trying to go and trying to. I think they overreached. But
You think?
yeah. Or I mean, they kept threatening us for about, I don't know, 2-3 years before they gotta bring somebody who would testify, an imam who would testify against us. And you have to think, who's this imam? What is he doing? It turned out it's somebody who's not even an imam. He lied throughout his life to the government, and we didn't know that. The government presented us with that. Somebody who lied about his name, about his age, about his nationality, about his education, about his employment, everything he lied about. And he was caught after the 9/11, and after he was caught, he said, I have something to tell you. You have to protect me and this and that. Then somebody that I met, 2 times in my life, one in '88, another time when my dad died in 2002, and he came with all kinds of lies, and I presented. My brilliant lawyer was, asking him about these lies, and that's a white lie, that's a white lie. He asked him what kind of lie that is, back and forth. It was surreal, but we had to do that. And sometimes when I say, things happen where you don't know why they happen, but there has to be a reason, and that's where I said, faith really comes into it. Is also the type of environment we had at the time. The government did everything possible to spread this sense of fear with snipers on top and all these yellow barricades around, and they brought like 500 jurors. I think 375 turned in, and I'm trying to see what kind of jurors we have, and our lawyers were very concerned about having basically very conservative jurors who have been affected by the propaganda going on. And I'm looking at how many blacks do I actually have, just trying to see if I can get any minority jurors. And all I see is 5 people out of almost 375. And lo and behold, 3 of them end up in my jury. I mean, doesn't mean anything, but you're trying to see is there any possibility for other people to be involved in the room. And I don't know what kind of deliberations, maybe Ron can enlighten us. So all these kind of things happen, obviously, and you don't know what to expect. And at the end, something good happened, is that people actually took that case seriously and evaluated whatever they want to evaluate, and they ended up with the decision they made. Something interesting that many people may not know, and that's the effect of the media that comes in place, is that, and I know that in the interview with Ron he went on and on saying, we didn't know why these 2 women were acting the way they were. Well, something that you might know, because we looked at the questionnaire of the jurors. These 3 women, or 2 women rather, had 2 things in common that they did not have, obviously, with others. First, they were Methodist and white old women, but that's not why. The third thing is the only 2 out of the 18, the jurors and the alternates, who actually read every day the Tampa Tribune. When you read, when you put down, what media, none of the other 16 said that they read the Tampa Tribune, except these 2 people. So they could not bring themselves, after reading for years what the Tampa Tribune was putting, that these people could actually be not guilty. That's what I think happened, and I think people could go and check on themselves. Now what happened after that is that after the case was over, the government now almost, that conspiracy was constructed in a way because they really couldn't prove what they wanted to prove, since I really had absolutely no transactions after 95. So they had to construct 2 other people and make it a bridge. So they brought, Sammy and then Sammy. But 2 of them were actually acquitted, so that this conspiracy almost relaxed. You cannot conspire with yourself. The whole theory was that I was somehow asking these people what to do. But that, now they have been acquitted, so how did that happen? So they're basically begging us to settle. Practically asked us to write the plea. Without going through details. Happened, we were discussing whether, time served, whether it'd be out June 1st or June 15th. But what happened is that 1 year later I'm still here. So even the government wanted at the time to end the case. It didn't end because someone else in Virginia had different plan for us. So after a few months, I was taken back to Virginia, and a brand new case happened. And for the first time, I felt I had a decent judge. That happened in 2008, where she actually questioned the juror, the prosecutor, asking him what was the essence of the plea, and why is it what we said happened, which is recorded in the affidavit of the lawyers, wasn't true. Can we get the Tampa prosecutors to come and explain their version? And the government kept actually not answering the questions, avoiding the questions. To the point that the judge said, you can file for dismissal. That was in 2009. But even that decent judge who gave me bail for the first time, even though I was under house arrest, could not act on the order, any kind of dismissal. So she kept it open for almost 5 years until the government said, I guess nothing's going to happen out of this, let's get him out. And that's what brought us, to this stage. But still, I did not have a country to go to. So I had to, at least look for a country, and thank God, that one country said yes. And that's why we're about to leave in about 2 weeks. And we are thankful that we are about to start a new page in our life, and hopefully that will be
page that will be happier, at least for my wife and children, and we move on. But we are grateful. I'm grateful to have had this opportunity. Even though we suffered, I think we still have the opportunities to, I had the opportunity to get education and to do whatever I thought was necessary to be done, to speak out or to be active. But most importantly, to raise my children as free people, as people who can actually prove themselves and be dignified, respectable human beings. And for that, we're very grateful. And now we have even 4. We are very proud to have 4 grandchildren. Just want to say a few words about what I hope will happen here, because I see that a lot of suffering has taken place, but also with this suffering, there are a lot of lessons to be learned. America has changed. You know, those who lived or old enough as I am, they can see that change. And sometimes that change is not for the better. But it's a country, it's your country. It's a country that you live in, that you're proud of, that you really want to make it the best country in the world. And when you see it's going in a regressive way, it's going in a way that tyranny has a place, what we need to do is to stand up and stop that. And there is a movement in the U.S., people who are willing to stand up and say enough is enough, and not to allow this to happen. And there are others who are fearful because they see what could happen to them. And my message is, if you care about the country, and if you care about the future, and especially your children and grandchildren, then we must stand up and speak out and say truth to power, and not allow the regressive powers, the people who are engulfed by irrational fear, take over. And unfortunately, that's not a lot. There's a lot of people in Congress that basically succumb to that. And it's very, very difficult. It's much more difficult than we had to face back, when it was secret evidence. I remember saying, I think it sounds very Jefferson said, when the people fear the government, there's tyranny. When the government fears the people, that's liberty. And think about that, whether we now fear the government or the government fears us. If the MO of people is that they feel they're under surveillance, that they can't speak, that when they use their phone or their internet or their email, that somehow they're being watched, and they have to watch everything they say, well, we're coming to the age of tyranny. And I don't think you want to live in tyranny. I don't think you want your children to live in tyranny. But that has to stop. And it can only stop through being involved at every level, especially at the political level and the public level. And unfortunately, media has lost perspective. It became more sensational, entertainment type business. So they are not really, with few exceptions, obviously. Intercept and Ringgold and others are other exceptions. But overall, the citizens in this country really have to get involved and stop this. You have to build a movement somehow in order to stop this encroachment on freedom and liberty. So, I'm hoping for positive change through education and activism. I'm reminded of the saying that says, all tyranny needs in order to rule the day is for people of good conscience to remain silent with it. To remain silent with nothing. And I think that's a challenge. When we see wrong, and I'm so proud of this community. This community, by the way, is an exception. Seriously. And this church is an exception, seriously. And the people who have been involved in social justice issues in this community are the exception. I remember back, most people do not know this story, the story of secret evidence. Secret evidence stopped in this country. It was for 2 years, between 96 and 98.
over about 24 months period, from April 96 to April 98, 29 cases were approved. The reason secret evidence stopped is because of her. It's because of activism in this community. When they sent a delegation to Washington and they met, that decision was taken out of the INS directors at the time into the hands of the Attorney General, and that's where it stopped. So we stopped the bleeding, and a year and a half later we freed everybody. So activism works. I know that firsthand. I saw it. And I know how political leaders act too. A lot of people do not know the history, and they keep blaming me for having Bush here, and I accept the blame. Serious. Because all what we were thinking about at the time was secret evidence. So when we talked to the Gore campaign and the Bush campaign, and basically the Gore campaign ignored us, the Bush campaign gave us some lukewarm words here and there, but by October of 2000, the polls were so close that they could tell we need the Muslim community somehow. So I get a call from a person on the night or the eve of the second debate, and he was acting on behalf of Kabul. And he said, okay, let's cut the BS. Basically, that's his word. How can we get the endorsement of the Muslim community? And at the time, the only thing on my mind was secret evidence. He needs to say he's against secret evidence. And he needs to say that he is for the bill in Congress that we were advancing in the Senate. And he wants it to pass. I did not know what to expect. I thought maybe a statement, maybe something of a stump speech. But the next day, before 62 million people in the second debate, I think it was Gwen Eifert who asked Gore about racial profiling. So he gives a standard answer, driving white, black, and all that. And then she asked Bush and said, yeah, that's wrong, but there's another form of racial profiling. It's called secret evidence. And it is wrong. And there is a bill in Congress by Spencer Abraham, it must pass. Oh my God. Oh my God. So I get a call right after that, and the guy says, I delivered. Are you going to deliver now? And I said, of course, I have to deliver. So we had, all the leaders of the Muslim community reading that, basically having a conference call that evening, and they decided to endorse Bush based on that statement. 2 days later, I get a call from the Gore campaign. How can we stop it? I can't think of anything. I've got to think of something. Okay, if you release my brother-in-law tomorrow, I'll stop it. Seriously, that's what I said. They said, let me see what I can do. So 2 hours later, I get a letter from Gore, basically addressed to the Arab Muslim community, that is against secret evidence, and that he would personally look into the case of Dr. Mazen al-Nijjar. She called me back and said, well, this is too little, too late. By the way, that letter is in the FBI office right now. So my point is what? Is that activism does yield results. So we meet, to make the long story short, they look at, the Muslim community got 6 swing states. They said, you're in charge of Florida. Florida, with the Muslim voters, is 2-1 Democrats. For that election, they voted 2-1 Republicans. And Bush won by 537 votes. So I accept that. And again, the story of this. By the way, we continued with them. He was about to do away with secret evidence. Just to complete the story, he invited the Muslim community leaders to Washington, D.C. to celebrate that fact. The Muslim leaders flew to Washington. It was supposed to be 3 o'clock. That day was 9/11. And when, the second or third day, they were meeting at the National Cathedral, where every airport was shut down. And people were like, why were the Muslim community leaders there? But that's, they were already there. They were supposed to be a few days earlier. But that's, the point here, of course, I'm trying to make is that you need to be active. We need to be active. People need to be active because politicians will only move when there is popular sentiment somehow. Now the popular sentiment is being driven in a completely different direction, and we want people of conscience to come together and save this country from tyranny. You don't want to live in a surveillance state. Anybody who read, the Snowden, what Snowden had to say, should be terrified of what could happen here. And I think that's what we need to work on. those the forces of hatred of bigoted type comments. Muslims are vulnerable. I'm telling you, they're not gonna lead this. They're under tremendous amount of pressure. Their institutions are being maligned. So it really has to be other people that they have to push. And we have a history in this country, whether it's the Native Americans or whether African Americans or Japanese internment or what have you. So this is not something new, but it's something I think that's much more serious because eventually it will affect how you live in this country. And again, this whole thing about the threat, some of it is legitimate, but a lot of it is not. So people have to stand up for turning a free country into a civilian state. Let me just conclude. You have a lot of emotions, a lot of feelings, at moments like these. But the overwhelming feeling I have really is a feeling of gratefulness and love. I don't have a single bitterness in my heart. None whatsoever. Absolutely not. None. Even whatever happened, really, I can only draw lessons from. I believe in this saying, the strike that does not kill me strengthens me. I really believe that. And I believe that God has different purpose. And it doesn't matter how we plan it here and there, whatever God has, it's going to happen. I intended to leave a long time ago, didn't happen. Even when we were certain 2006 didn't happen. So it has to be a different purpose. And I accept that. Totally accept that. Totally at peace with it. You feel a little bit of sadness because you have to leave friends behind, children behind, grandchildren behind, and all that. But all that it's gonna be all right. Things face much more serious things than that. Serious sicknesses or even death. I just want to also thank you all again. Thank you for all the love and support you gave me and my family. It was really wonderful to have known you, wonderful to be with you, wonderful to have lived with you, to have shared so many wonderful memories back, and I think that's what it's all about. There is an organization that I would like you to support if you can. It's called the National Coalition to Protect Civil Freedoms. It's a coalition of several organizations that came together to support such cases. It's a very small organization, but it has very dedicated people. One of its officers is right there. Thank you so much, Mel, for serving. Thank you for everything you've done. Thank you for being there for our family. Mel is among our dearest friends. She has shown the documentary, the Norwegian documentary, I think at least 100 times around the nation, single-handedly. She and Fred going from city to city, church to church, community to community, showing it. That's a dedication of people that I really admire a lot. I believe eventually truth will triumph and justice will triumph in this country and outside, especially in Palestine, the land that has suffered so much. I want to conclude with this saying, and Reverend Lee just came and I just say I love you, brother. Thank you for coming. Reverend Lee was the chairman, president of Hope at the time when we joined back in '97, and we did so many wonderful events together. I want to conclude with this saying by Malcolm X. He says, you can't separate peace from freedom, because no one can be at peace unless he has his freedom. So we cannot not value freedom. We cannot not fight for freedom. And freedom here means The freedom to speak, the freedom to demonstrate, the freedom to dissent, the freedom to say no when tyranny takes place or when oppression takes place. No to fear. Again, don't fear the government. Let the government fear you. That's how we can live as a free person. And my saying is that one cannot achieve peace without realizing justice, or realize justice without seeking out the truth, or seek out the truth without practicing freedom. It's a tree. To me, it's a tree. The bottom is freedom. When you have freedom, you can tell the truth. When you tell the truth, you can have justice. And when you have justice, that's how you can attain peace. You can't ask for peace unless you have these three things together. And all starts with freedom. So there you have it. Living and thinking free is the truth, is the root for achieving peace in the world. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sammy. Nala, have you had any second thoughts? Okay. Move on. We've got a couple more people I've asked to speak, and the first one will be Reverend Marshall Free, who was the pastor here long ago. And so.
I guess the only story I'll tell you is the one that says that one day Nala and Sammy came to me. I had never met them, I didn't know them, and we sat in the Metcalf room in the library, and they asked me, this was about 90... Really? Okay, whenever. And they asked me what they could do. I didn't know how they even got my name. I thought it was maybe because at that time I was the president of the Hillsborough Interfaith Clergy Association. But no, Nala tells me it's because she had a religious studies professor who said, oh, go talk to Marcia. And so they came, and so I said, how do they get to know people in the community so people in the community won't be afraid of our Muslim brothers and sisters? I said, Hope! You need to belong to Hope. The whole mosque needs to belong to Hope. So, poor Sharon, 5 women show up in her office from the mosque. And so you know part of the rest of the stories, I'm sure. So I don't need to tell you many stories except to say, Sammy and Nala, you have blessed my life. You have blessed my life, both with your faith, with your perseverance, with your love. One little story. When I went over to North Carolina, because that's where you were at that moment, I didn't know what I was going to do. Well, no, they said, you have to stay the night so that you can be out there, marching about, And I said, well, but I hadn't planned to do that. So their youngest son gave up his bed. I don't know what he did all night. But that's the kind of hospitality that this family shows. And their son was gracious, not a teenager being, oh, well, all right, mother, I have to do this for you. No, the whole family was gracious. And every one of your children is educated. Their oldest son has a PhD. Every child's been to college. I'm telling you, what kind of parents they are. Well, that's enough from me. But at any rate, blessings on both of you. Blessings on your life from here on out. I told Sammy today, he reminds me of St. Paul, who had to do a lot of writing when he was under house arrest. And indeed, Sammy wrote a book and lots of essays and so forth. So, God bless you. God bless you.
Thank you. And I'd like to ask, where'd you go? Warren Clark, our pastor, who led the Tuesdays with Sammy, I believe was that.
The way in which this worked is that I got to know you, Sammy, as we were having lunches together with the Hope pastors, as you led your community to be engaged in working for a better Tampa Bay area through Hope. We began to develop a relationship of understanding of spiritual practices as well. We began to share that. And I began to get to know you as just Sammy, just this wonderful colleague that is working for peace and justice in this community. It was that leadership that you gave to your community to take what Marcia suggested and to be going to her, the two of you going to her and asking her that, what can we do? And then you're following through and doing that. And then the strong leadership within the mosque, many of whom are represented here today, that did it with your leadership when you were there and continued on with it long after and continue with it now. That is really the door opener. That's what was the difference here in this community from other communities. You initiated that, the two of you. You're the ones who stepped forward. And then once we knew you as people, and we worked side by side with you as congregations in this community for a more just, more peaceful place here and in the world, then when difficult times came, then naturally we could be in solidarity together. And that is simply, that's the difference. That's the way in which we wound up with having Tuesdays together. We did have some times. We told some jokes. A lot of those jokes that you told me from Egypt, I was then, man, that was sermon right here. They remember. And we prayed together. And folks, the way that we prayed through two thick panes of glass was like this. You on one side and me on the other, and we prayed just like that. Couldn't touch. And the Spirit went right through those two panes of glass. It was wonderful. Bless me. So the simple little thing that I would like to do, I mean, there's so much that could be said, but I want to give you and I want to give Nala a tiny little gift. Pam and I now live in St. Augustine. We've been there for 2 years. We are really getting wired into that community. And there is a lot going on, would you believe, in Northeast Florida, folks? And that has become a progressive community. It's changing before our eyes. 50 years ago, it was run by the Ku Klux Klan. And it is a very different place. It just declared itself a compassionate city. It just became the first international sister city with Avila, Spain, to be compassionate cities. And there is something called the Charter for Compassion International that is simply how do we treat others the way that we want to be treated. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you through our business, through our government, through our health care, through our social services and in our schools, and individually, how do we treat others the way we want to be treated. So that is what was being demonstrated right here. I have a second career. I actually majored in art in college, and so I am now an historical illustrator. And I illustrate those stories, particularly the ones I love, were of people that had a vision for a better world and risked and acted on their visions. This last year, I had a chance to do 10 illustrations about the civil rights movement in St. Augustine, which was the catalyst for the passage of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. It was absolutely the thing that was finally put it over the edge. There was Selma, there was all the other, but that was the final thing. There was a lady there named Cat Twine. Pam and I live on Twine Street, just down the street from where they used to live. And she was arrested 5 or 6 times at least. And she always had a bag by the front door, so when the police came, you know, that she was there ready to be taken to the prison, and she was ready to get a change of clothes and whatever she needed. And she had a great big straw hat that said "Freedom Now" written all over it, and had the button from the March on Washington on the top of it. And that way it protected from the sun in the open stockade at the county jail, where everybody was held that was in the civil rights movement. And so, this is for you, Sammy. It's got a picture of Cat Twine on it at the fence with the barbed wire on the top of it, looking out, and it says, "Whatever happens," and these are her words, this is what she's known for, "Whatever happens, we shall overcome." And that's and now, there is a folklorist from Florida. Her name is Zora Neale Hurston, an African-American person that really got a lot of the culture of the black community here in Florida and beyond in the 1930s and 40s. And she taught in St. Augustine. And there is a saying of hers that I have written down. This is a picture of her. She wrote a book called Dust Tracks on the Road, and it's the road of life of all the people and these tracks on the road. We've been hearing some of those tracks today. And her statement is, love makes your soul crawl out from its hiding place. Love makes your soul crawl out from its hiding place. And I thought of you, because there have been many times when it's been very fearful, but it was the love in you for this man, for your family, that had your soul crawl out, and be there at his side, and be there with your family through very difficult times. All right. Who else have you got to talk?
We have Sharon Spear, a poet.
Okay, great. What I'd like to do is, if this would be all right, if everybody can talk, but then I'd like to send off, if that's okay. Or do you have somebody that's going to do a closing prayer?
Would you like to do it when we get to
I'd be glad to do it when we get to dinner. Let's do that. Sharon Streeter, where are you? Come on down, as they say.
Wow. I don't cry often, but I was thinking it's been almost 18 years when those 5 ladies walked in my office. And actually Bishop Lee was there, so after I had a conversation with them, I asked him to come in, and that was over your brother's case, Mazen al-Najjar being held on secret evidence. And Bishop Lee walked in and says, "We're in. We'll show up at that 4th of July event at the mosque." And that started our journey together. And you never know when you start a journey where that journey will take you. And I'm very sad that you're leaving the country, but I'm also very excited for the future for you and your family. And it was interesting because I'm simply an organizer. I'm not a leader in the community. I try to stay out of the public eye. I try not to be in the newspaper. And Sammy's a good illustrator of just let it go, have faith. Because before Sammy was arrested, I happened to just be walking down the street with him after a prayer vigil for peace. And we were headed to the court. And they were trying to get, I think USF was trying to get the federal government to, I think, fire you because they didn't want to do it. So Channel 9 got a picture of us walking across the street together. I was at my mother's funeral 3 months after you were arrested, and someone said, "Oh, I just saw you in the news." And it was like, well, and it was that Channel 9 clip. Year after year after year, anytime Sammy's name would come up, not anytime, but often, people would say, "Oh, Sharon, I saw you in," and I said, "You realize that's 5 years old?" And I had to let go, because as an organizer, I'm not supposed to be, Bishop Lee knows this, he's been my boss. I'm not supposed to get my name in the paper. I'm not supposed to be in the paper. And I had to learn to just let it go. And if it was there, maybe for a reason. And so one time, Sammy, right after you were arrested, and I had the great honor of being with Nala, going to the courthouse that morning, they put my name in the paper, of course. I think one of you guys from the youth, from this church said my name. But there was a column, the reporter called me and said, "Sharon, I just want to know some about Sami Al-Arian, his involvement with Hope." So of course I told it, that he's been with us to get more drug treatment in the healthcare plan. We were after a reading program that really helps kids to learn. He put it in his school, at the mosque. All these things that he had done, and his community, 300 people out at our Nehemiah Action in 1998. All these wonderful things to show that Sami Al-Arian was a person of integrity, cared about the community. And so I'm thinking, okay, I got to look for that column. Well, they switched it. It was about me. Oh, Sharon Streeter has dealt with this and this, being involved in the community, but now she has this. And ends it with, "It's very cold where Reverend Sharon Streeter stands. Very cold." And I'm like, oh, I guess I'm supposed to be afraid. But it's wonderful the way the community in Hillsborough County, Mel and so many others stood up, and all the people I see in this room that stood up outside the courthouse and have followed you. But I want to say, Sammy, whenever I would go visit you in prison, I would be very depressed when I would walk in, but just really encouraged and hopeful when I left. And I'm like, wait, there's something wrong with this picture. I'm supposed to be encouraging him. And he's the one, I swear, I would have been in the corner crying if I was him. And he's the one that would get you encouraged, right? Anyone who visited him in prison, you would leave encouraged because he had such strong faith and hope and could see beyond the mess. And my heart and my soul and my life has been forever touched. I've known you almost a third of your life, and over a third of your life, and less than a third of mine. But thank you for what you did for our community, for bringing Christians and Muslims and other people of faith together in this community, which we know is going to continue, right? So that we can continue to make this place a better place, and that we have relationships so that when something happens, we are there for each other. And so I'm going to miss you, but I got to learn how to get to Turkey, or wherever it is. For whatever country you end up in, I'm going to hopefully find a way, rob a bank, and get there. Thank you for your love. Thank you for giving this community so much.
I think I saw our current pastor. Are you available to say a few words? This is the Reverend Bernice Powell-Gafford.
Finally, I get to lay my eyes on you. You're here. It's a blessing to finally meet you. I've met Nala many times and your family many times, and I've heard so much about you, and I know who you are. And so I just want to join my two predecessors in thanking you for opening yourself and your family and your community to the rest of us, for helping us to learn about you and who you are. And it's been a blessing for our congregation through all these many years to walk this road with you. And I don't think it's over yet. I don't think it's over yet. None of us knows what God is doing. And so I look forward to seeing you again in person. And just know that wherever you are, wherever you go, that you go with the love and the support and the prayers of all of us. So thank you.
Thank you. We're going to, before we have Pastor Warren come up and use kind of prayer. Oh, yes, Bishop Lee. But we're also going to have open mic over there, because we would like to hear a little bit from Ron also. So be sure and stay for that and the food.
Good afternoon, everyone. I gotta let you know, both of you, that there was no way that I would not be here. I went through some changes in these last couple of weeks, and my instructions were, I've got to be there. When I saw Mel's email, give me some extra medication, do whatever you need to do, but I will be on that road to Tampa Saturday. We go back a long ways. One of the basic things that I want to thank you for is that you taught me something. Prior to meeting you, we all have this idea of what others are like. And that idea is formed from information from others. That information may or may not be true. But I'm so glad I met you and found out that it wasn't true. A man of integrity, honor, a humanitarian. I can't say enough about Sammy. I just wish that there were more Sammys, more Namis. Sharon mentioned when they came into her office and they talked with her and she came to me. I didn't hesitate to say yes. I didn't hesitate to say we're in for one reason. I've been a struggler all my life. Warren mentioned what was going on in St. Augustine. Well, I lived that life. I didn't have to read about it. I have been beaten with billy clubs. I have been drugged down the street by the collar of my shirt till the skin was peeled off, bitten by a police dog, shot down with fire hoses in the civil rights movement. So I know all about struggle. But I'm glad I read somewhere that not some, but all things do work together for good. The perseverance that you have, the tenacity that you have, it helps to give me strength. Because I'm going to tell you what happened. But because of you, I had strength to endure it. Because of what I stood for, because of who I associated with, I started getting phone calls. Now, I'm guilty also. But I stood my ground because I said, yes, I am guilty. If that's what you call guilt by association, I'm guilty too. Lock me up too. I am super glad to have met you, to love you, and still, to this very day, love you. There is nothing. I'm just disappointed that my health started failing. In fact, week before last, I had heart attack number 7. But I'm still here.
So evidently I'm here for a reason. And only God knows that reason. Maybe he kept me here because I had to be here to see you all today. But I want to thank you for all that you have done for this community and what you have shown and instilled in me, I have passed on to others. And now there are lots of people that have a different idea of others that are different from them, all because of you. And I had to stop and say thank you. And thanks to the entire community, because y'all serve some of the best lamb I ever had in my life. I do want to apologize to everyone. I have to leave because I have a meeting, which was supposed to have already been, but I changed the time so I could be here. But this is the first time since I've been to my church in over about 3 months. I've been quite ill. But I want to say again, thank you, both of you, please, because I know I stay in touch with Sharon, and you will too, so we'll know where you are. And I'm like Sharon. Now, I ain't going to rob nobody. But we're going to have to find a way to get some funds and come wherever you are. And may God's richest blessings continue to shower on both of you. Both of you. Remember, I heard one day say this is not the end, and it's not. Life is a struggle until the day you leave here. One struggle or another, but it's still a struggle. Stay strong, keep struggling, keep fighting, because only the strong survive.
Thank you. We're nearing the end. Ron, would you like to speak in here briefly while there's good sound?
Yes.
If you we have sound over there, it's not as good. The hero of Tampa.
I don't know. I just feel bad. I'm so glad that this is all over for you and your wife. But at the same time, I feel like I'm losing friends, and it's sad because I never have gotten to meet you. I've never gotten to shake your hand until just today. But I have so much respect for you and for your wife and for your family. What they've been through is just, I don't know. I don't know if I could do it. I don't think I could. I couldn't come out of it the same. And I just wanted to be an inspiration to me. You changed my life just by coming in contact with your family. I'm not the same person I was. I've learned so much about so much. I can't even explain it, but just thank you for letting me be a part of it. Thank you for inviting me here. Thank you for just letting me be in your life and to know what's going on. It means so much to me. I wish I could have done everything. I wish we could have solved all the problems. I feel bad that we haven't, but I'm just so glad that I met you and I met your wife, and I'm so happy that everything is working out at least a little bit better for you. And I hope that it's not over. I hope that one day we can all meet again. All right? Thank you very much.
There's always got to be a catastrophe. It's just like...
Assalamu alaikum. You hear me, right? I wish Brother Sammy was coming, not leaving us. We are all gonna miss him. But on behalf of the Islamic community of Tampa, I really want to thank you all I know you are here because you care. Everybody who is here, he really cares about this family and what happened to them. We appreciate your support over all these years. And we continue to be your friends and brothers of the Islamic community of Tampa. You're always welcome. And I know when I am here, I feel home. So thank you very much for your good hospitality, and may God bless you all.
First, Reverend Warren, closing prayer.
All right, let's stand. Sammy and I will stand right here. Now, what I want to invite you to do is, we are from many different traditions, and some of us not necessarily from any particular religious tradition, but we all have within us that spirit of goodness and love and appreciation. So I'm going to invite you now to just send your energy of love and appreciation to Sammy and to Nala as a part of what we do now, to send them forth from this, their home in Tampa, to their next home. Join me in that now. We are grateful, O loving one, for having seen your love and your goodness and your commitment to basic justice in the lives of these two people, expressed in very different ways. And yet from each one, from Nala and from Sammy, we have sensed your energy and presence. And it has made a real difference in our community. And so now we from here in Tampa surround them with that sense of love as they go forth to a new place, to a new opportunity to continue to be that awake presence of your goodness, of your caring, and of your peace, and of your love where they are next. They do not go alone, but are accompanied by our spirit and filled with your presence. And so it is. Amen.